Well, good evening, everyone. Michael, soothing here. I thought tonight what I would do is have a little discussion about CardPlayer issues, poker, from an old CardPlayer magazine I just found. Didn't know I had any of these still around. First, I'm going to get a mint out of this package so that I have something to kind of keep my voice lubricated a little bit. Maybe I should whisper this video. I am tempted to whisper it. Some folks have been asking me to do a whisper video. I have this microphone, this new Tascam, set up perfectly now the way I like it for ASMR. I hope you like it also. It picks up the sounds really, really well. And the sounds are quite pleasing. Here's, for example, some iced tea that I'm drinking. You can see the tea bag down in there. I was pointing the tea bag at the microphone. Could be a sign of, mental disorder or something. But do you see how the sounds here will go from this one to this one? Even though I told you I wasn't gonna do any side to side. Take a sip of that. Anyway, I've been having some very nice success lately at my local casino in the small tournaments. And I'll tell you about that in a future video, along with discussing a few key hands and strategic concepts, if you're a poker player, that you might employ in your own game. Let me get more comfortable. We'll move the microphone down a little bit. That's probably going to be a loud bang to your ears. Whoa, I almost knocked over my little tabletop here. Joanne has a setup here for her ASMR because she's going to do some other things in her video. But I thought we would just peruse through this thing and see what's in one of these old. This is from 2016. Reading players is an art form. Everyone's got a website now, right? They're trying to make money instructing you. I won't do that, especially since I'm not on the circuit of major poker players. Mohegan Sun. Have I played there? Nope. It's in Pennsylvania. But these CardPlayer magazines advertise all the big tournaments. Look at this. California's new online poker bill offers the best chance yet for passage. Inside straight. But it has not passed. So online poker is still not legal in almost any of the states. I think it might be in Nevada and perhaps in New Jersey, but I'm not sure. It would be nice if there was a straight, honest online poker site, but I'm not sure there's any of those left. Almost all of them have been either hacked or have teams of cheaters either on the inside with the code writing or teams that are cheating on the outside, like 4 or 5 players get on a table, right? High stakes. And they're all in different locations. So the IP addresses look as if, everything's legit because they're all in widely differing areas, but they're all on their cell phone telling each other what their cards are and things. There's a million ways that people cheat online poker, but usually it's an inside job. And even when it's not an inside job, the poker sites themselves have the algorithms written in a way so that really bad players are getting miraculous hands time after time, and really good players are penalized. There's a very good reason they do this. It's to keep the bad players from going broke too quickly. That way they can keep a lot more players on the site paying the 10% or whatever it is they're charging for the rake. And millions of dollars in rake can be at stake there. So you tell me, there's no one overseeing these sites, really. There's no checks and balances. They used to be legit when they first started. Party Poker and Poker Stars, all of them. And online poker was really easy to beat then if you were a good player. I know because I made a lot of money playing online poker once upon a time. Anyway, we have here a ridiculous ruling in Holland. Dutch court says poker is chance, not skill. Okay, there's an element of chance, of course, in poker, but it's going to be the top 20% of players that take 80% of the profits off the table in the long run. And that means it's a skill game, not a strictly luck game. Luck is only one element, and it's not the major element, okay? Poker is considered a game of chance at its core. A Dutch court ruled in March. The Amsterdam Appeals Court said it is illegal for individuals to host poker games because this amounts to gambling. The ruling stems from a decade-old case involving 2 men who fell into hot water for hosting super low stakes Texas Hold'em poker tournaments, which regularly drew around 70 players at a bar over a 2-year period. Now, isn't this odd? This is a country where everything is legalized and everything is permissible, no matter how bizarre. Every deviation, every kind of drug you want to do, pretty much you can do anything in the Netherlands except play poker. Okay, so because that's, I think it's because they had no way to tax that home game, right? So they had to call it a game of chance, not skill. Anyway, I'm a little biased about this. I sort of believe in letting people do what they want to do if they're not bringing harm to anyone. They were super low stakes games, like you couldn't lose very much at all. Let's see what else is in this magazine. If there's any interesting articles. Player of the Year standings. I wonder how they rate these guys. I think they do it based on major tournament winnings and points. I don't recognize most of the names, but I do recognize a few. Yeah, there's the list, but most of them are not names you would readily recognize, unless perhaps you were part of the poker circuit. So let's see what else. This week's big winner, the WPT, that's World Poker Tour, LA Poker Classic main event. German pro wins 7 figures in Los Angeles. There's the German pro. What's his name? Let's see. In the end, the title went to German pro Dietrich Faust, who took home the trophy and the $1,800,000 first place prize. That's pretty good. Faust defeated Mike Shariati heads up, who was trying to win his second WPT title. What do you think about this new camera? I mean, this new camera. I keep getting dyslexic. What do you think about this new microphone and the sounds? I think it sounds really good. Yes, you're going to hear a slight echo, but that's okay. I like the echo because I have it on some settings now that I find perfect for ASMR sounds. This has got too much condensation on it. If you don't mind, I'll wipe it right off on my shirt and no one will know. Okay? Soon it's time for my nighttime shower anyway. And change. Oh, here's an interesting article. When I was a donk. When I was a donk. If you're not part of the poker world, you may not know that a donk is a bad player at the table. Someone who has gone on tilt and is not playing correctly at all. Playing badly because they lost a hand or something that upset them or some other thing happened. Let's see what this guy's story is, okay? Hey, tell it to the microphone hand. Ryan Welsh is a poker pro from Brentwood, Tennessee. You know, it's kind of dark and I forgot to turn my ASMR light on. But that's okay, because ASMR is supposed to be kind of dark and relaxing anyway. Anyway, this guy, Ryan Welch, has won quite a bit of money, and he's won some titles, and he's a pro that makes a living at poker. But he's going to tell us about his donk story when he played badly. So he says, back in 2009, I was playing in a tournament at the World Series of Poker. I ended up making a pretty deep run in a $1,500 buy-in event with about 2,500 players. So it was more than $600,000 for first place. I came into day 3 with about 30 players left, an above average stack, and a decent shot at a big score. At that time, I really didn't have much hand reading ability. I had a lot of raw aggression. Just because of my online background, my game plan was just to apply a lot of pressure. was earlier in his career. Then a hand came up where an older guy opened, and I 3-bet pocket eights. That means the older guy raised, and he re-raised him. And he had 2 8s in his hand, pocket 8, which is something I'd almost never do today. That's pretty over-aggressive for pocket 8s, unless you're very short-stacked and making a desperation move. He 4-bet me, so he got re-raised. And me being the crazy online kid, I decided to go for it, and I 5-bet jammed all in. Of course, he called with pocket kings, and I busted out in 23rd place. I just remember walking out of that room so disappointed in myself, wondering, what the hell was I thinking? It was a complete breakdown of my self-control. I was so locked into just one mode, which was the hyper-aggressive guy who won't back down, that it never occurred to me to give the old guy who 4-bet credit for his hand. It was a completely mindless move on my part. So he's taken responsibility for his previous over-aggressive tendencies that cost him a higher spot in that tournament. I still get that aggressive itch every now and then, but nowadays I'm much better at biting my lip and controlling the urge to be the table maniac. Maniac is a term used in the poker world for someone who's far too over-aggressive, constantly raising mediocre hands and re-raising people just to be aggressive and try to take control, playing far too many hands that are questionable. That's a maniac. With the structures being longer, it makes sense to shift gears and be patient sometimes. Good advice for any and all poker players. I've been playing against a couple of maniacs in the local poker tournaments, and all you really have to do is wait for them to try and buy a pot when you have a big hand, say 2 big pair. Maybe you come in with ace king and you hit your king, and there's a couple of rags on the board like 2-4, or maybe you hit 2 pair, you have a king queen and you hit both a king and a queen, you've got 2 big pair, or something better, you make a straight or whatever, and the maniac puts a big raise in to try to steal the pot. You can re-raise the maniac moderately, and he'll almost always call off his chips, even if it cost him all his poker tournament chips. Because he can't give, if he's bluffing, he'll release. But if he's trying to buy the pot with, say, a pair of 10s, you can get all his chips off him because he's too aggressive with his medium hand, right? So, but you don't want to try that with a tight player who's not coming in much. When they make a big raise, you can be sure they have something big, generally speaking. The player that's been sitting there quietly for 3 rounds of play and not doing anything, they know you to be a tight, aggressive player, and you're not playing cards that are bad. Suddenly you put in a raise and they make a big re-raise on you. You better give them credit for a big hand most of the time, and fold yours if it's not a big hand, if you're a big underdog. Anyway, and on the flip side, if you're a tight, aggressive player, you don't play in very many hands. Other players will give you credit for a hand when it's the time to make a key bluff, because there's a big pot and you're pretty sure your opponent missed his hand. You put in a big bet, and you want to fold. You want him to fold, right? But anyway, Fast takes out Keating in third place. This is the kind of thing that can happen. Dietrich Fast had about 7 million in chips, and Keating had about 5 million. Fast gets an ace king, and Keating gets an ace queen. Suited though, both hearts, right? The flop comes 4, 5, 8. Doesn't help either player, but somebody's gonna bluff at that flop because they both put in big raises before the flop. They both assume that the other guy doesn't have a 4 or a 5 or an 8 or the 6, 7 that would make the straight for the flop there. So they're trying to outplay each other. And yeah, it says Keating raised to 250,000 in cutoff. Dietrich 3-bet to 675,000 on the button. Keating then moved all in for it. He had the ace queen suited. He moved all in for a total of 5 million. Fast immediately called with the ace king and was pleased to see he had Keating's ace queen dominated. So there was no action after the flop or on the flop because they got all their chips in before the flop. So and it just went on where neither player improved, so the ace king won. You know, those are the kind of classic hands that can be painful if you have been waiting forever to get a quality hand. You suddenly look down and see an ace queen suited, and it looks like the best hand in the universe because you haven't seen anything good for so long. You want to get all your chips in with it, and your opponent turns over an ace king and has you dominated. You don't expect him to have an ace king, of course, when you get all your chips in. I saw this 2 or 3 times in the last tournament. I think twice I saw players go in with pocket kings, which is either the second or the third best hand in poker, depending on how you look at it. So they got their chips in, and the other player had pocket aces, which is the best hand to start with in Texas Hold'em. Anyway, both times the aces held up. I wonder how loud this crunching is with the new microphone setup. The Bellagio, very fancy casino in Vegas. Go visit it sometime. It's pretty impressive. Final table takedown. World Series of Poker main event. Third place finisher. Neil Blumenthal learns a lesson or two about bet sizing. We'll have to come back to this when we're talking about poker strategy someday, because right now I don't have the patience to step you through the entire hand. It's quite a long discussion of it, but maybe sometime in the future when we're talking strategy, we'll talk about bet sizing. Buy one ticket and get another one for $29 at the Cirque du Soleil. I wonder what the first one cost. I'm not sure I feel like going to the Cirque du Soleil. Are there clowns there? Because I don't like clowns. They seem evil to me. But that's just me. Learning No Limit from scratch. Getting stacked with 2 queens. Doyle Brunson said he was like the most famous older poker player of all time and wrote the original master book on the subject before anyone was writing books, called Super System by Texas Dolly Doyle Bronson. Anyway, Doyle Bronson says that we'll talk about this book sometime in the future, okay? It's a real classic now. We'll look at some of the strategy concepts inside here. Anyway, Doyle says that he has lost more money in poker with a starting hand of 2 queens than any other hand. So he'll still play them, but he's not too thrilled. Sometimes he'll throw them. Anyway, this is a very long discussion about getting 2 queens. I probably won't go through it right now. Somebody just buzzed me on my phone. I wonder what that's about. Right now I won't check. It's rude to check your phone when you're out to dinner with your spouse or when you're doing an ASMR video. And probably when you're driving as well. As you know, I have a pet peeve with that. The right hand ranges make aggressive play profitable. You want to be an aggressive player in poker. You will be rewarded for your aggression as long as it's not over aggression, and you've got to pick the right times, okay? So we'll discuss that sometime in the future too. But meanwhile, Ocean's 11 Casino. I never played there, but I'd like to someday. It's in San Diego, a beautiful town that I want to visit again, where I used to work, as I told you in a previous video. Silicon Valley's place to play. Here's a place I have played many, many times. Bay 101 Casino. I won a couple tournaments there for pretty good money. And it was around 5,600 for a Texas Hold'em tournament. And one time I won a 7-card stud tournament there, way back when they were still playing 7-card stud, long ago, before most of you were even born. But anyway, that might be an exaggeration. calling with the marginal hand on the river. Remember, if you call with the losing hand all the time, you're going to throw a lot of chips away. But there are times when it makes great sense to call on the river. That means the final bet with a marginal hand. Because let's say the pot's really big. Let's say you're playing a small no limit game and the pot is $200, and on the river you see there's a jack, maybe a jack, a queen, a king, and a couple of rags, and you missed your straight draw and your flush draw, but you have, say, an ace jack, and there's a, so you have a pair of jacks with an ace, right? There's a queen and a king on the board, and your opponent bets, 20 or 30 bucks on the river into you. And the pot is 200 bucks. For simplicity, let's say he bets 20, so he's underbetting the pot. Let's make it more realistic. Let's say on the river he bets 50 bucks and the pot's 200. So now it's 250 because he bet 50 bucks, right? And you think to yourself, he could have a king or a queen or something even better and have me beat. Maybe he has two pair. Maybe he has a straight because he's got a 9-10 or an ace 10, and there's a jack, queen, king on the board, right? So you're thinking all of this and you're pretty sure you're beat. But let's say you're only about a 2-to-1 sure you're beat, because this opponent bluffs quite a bit on the river. Well, the pot's giving you 5-to-1, isn't it? Because for you to call that $50 bet, if you win, you're going to get 250 bucks, right? So you're going to get 300 because you'll get your 50 back, plus the 250. All right, so the pot's laying you 5-to-1. That means you have to be more than 5-to-1 certain that your opponent has you beat. If you think there's a 50-50 chance he has you beat, you absolutely must call there. Because if you call and you lose, you're out 50 bucks. But if you call and you win, you gain 250 bucks. So it's better to lose a small amount than to not win a big amount, unless you're more than 5-to-1 certain that you're beat. Okay? That's the concept. So the pot odds, what is the pot laying you? Let's see what his discussion says. I think get lucky. Experience the best live action in California at the Matrix Casino. What do they mean, get lucky, I wonder, with that graphic? I can't imagine. Jacksonville's largest poker room in Florida, best bet. Hollywood Park Casino, the Hard Rock Cafe, Seminole, Hollywood, Florida. What else here? There's a lot of ads in this thing. CardPlayer cruise. You can go on a cruise, where you play poker the whole time. Not the whole time. hopefully you see some of the sights, but you play poker at night, and then your spouse is angry because you're supposed to be having a romantic evening, strolling the deck or hanging out in your stateroom after dinner, right? And instead you're playing poker. But, yeah, they have a bunch of different CardPlayer cruises. There's one that goes to Alaska. There's a night Norwegian fjord cruise. How do you see the fjords at night? Oh, sorry, 7-night Norwegian fjord cruise. 7-night Scandinavia and Russia cruise. Maybe I'll brush up on my Russian and do that one. About a Viking passage cruise from Denmark to New York City. Copenhagen, Denmark. That's where Joanne is from. She spent many years there. A 7-night Pacific Coast cruise from Seattle, Washington to where I don't know. A Mexico cruise. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap it up because there's only so much we can talk about without going into great detail. And tonight, I don't have the patience or the time for great detail in strategy because I'm just relaxing here, you know. So I think I will say good evening, and please try not to ASMR and drive or ASMR at work where your head falls over in deep sleep onto your desk, okay? I think I did that once, or close to it. I fell asleep with my head back in my chair, earbuds in, listening to ASMR once at work. I'm admitting it though. I learned to be more careful where I listen because you don't want to listen in an important meeting, you know, with the company president and VPs, because you wouldn't want to fall asleep there. You have to pretend to be paying attention at least, okay? Anyway, take care everyone. Bye-bye for now.